friends. Move out of the way, kitty. Okay, thank you, kitty. Today, on Readers All Your Friends, we're going to read, drum roll, please. Stick Cat! Yay! 2 cats and a baby. I don't have the original, but this is all I got. Now, I'm going to start reading. Sorry. It's just, I have a whole bag of Jolly Ranchers. And it's calling my name. Zoe. Like that. Now, I'm getting distracted. I have to start reading. Okay. It's Mary's birthday. Chapter 1A. You know Mary, right? I wrote the first Stick Cat story for her, and a second, and a third. She's in my class. And she's, cute. There, I said it. Okay. I'm not saying this from me. It's from the book. She's also obsessed with cats. She has 2 pet cats, but that's not all. She has a cat sweaters, bags, notebooks, and pencil erasers. She has loads of other cat stuff too. For real. In English class, I usually write stick dog stories. But I got Mary to, like me or whatever by writing stick cat stories. Stick cat stories. And letting her read them. She asked me to the sweetheart dance. And I'm pretty sure that she was impressed by my dancing skills. I got the rhythm, you know what I mean? And guess whose birthday it is next month. If you guess Mary, you're right, Mary. And guess what I'm going to give her? Right again, another stick cat story. Note to self, tear out this chapter before giving it to Mary. What was that? Okay, I'm going to be right back. Oh, well, just nice to get a stash of candy. Now, I'm going to start reading. Yay. Chapter 1, Beauty Sleep. It was morning, and the sun began to rise above the big city. Edith was half asleep on the windowsill. Her eyelids dropped down to nearly shut. Stick Cat jumped softly and quickly next to her. Nobody in their apartment, not Stick Cat, Edith, Goose, Tiffany, or Mildred had gotten much sleep for the previous night. Who's Mildred? Good question. A lot has happened since the last Stick Cat story, when he and Edith captured the dangerous and fearsome burglar named Tuna Todd. I'll try to catch you up real quick like. Okay, after the police took Tuna Todd away, Goose, Stick Cat's roommate, and Tiffany, Edith's roommate, saw each other for the first time through the hole in the wall between their 2 apartments. Edith and Stick Cat had scratched and clawed at the wall to make a hole so they can spend all their days together when Goose and Tiffany went to work. Well, to make that hole was so they could spend their days together and Goose. Well, when Goose and Tiffany saw each other through that hole, 2 totally important things happened. First, they fell in love at first sight. Second, when obviously that love was in the air, Edith said, "Ugh, gross." What else happened? Let me tell you. After dating a few months and taking a trip to Paris, France, Goose and Tiffany got married back in his hometown, which a few hours later, outside a big city. It was a lovely day in the evening at Passaco Park. There was a wedding celebration with fireworks and the buffet that included barbecue ribs with mashed potatoes. There's also a huge, tall, elegant wedding cake. Edith ate a lot of cake. And Stick Cat shared an entire layer of wonderful cake with 5 hungry stray dogs. There's a poodle, a dash dog, a Dalmatian, and a couple of others. You might have read all about my story of Stick Dog crashes a party. Well, I haven't. When they arrived back in the big city, Tiffany and Edith moved into Goose and Stick Cat's apartments. About 10 months later, Mildred was born. That's who Mildred is. She's a baby. Everyone just calls her Millie. Millie is not a really good sleeper. She likes to wake up in the middle of the night, and when she wakes up in the middle of the night, Millie likes to cry. This is fine with almost everybody in the apartments. That's because they know that Millie is just a baby. They know that she gets hungry. She wants to know where she is. She might be afraid of the dark. She might be lonely. Everybody's fine with it. Well, almost everybody. Everybody's fine with it. Goose is fine with it. Tiffany's fine with it. Stick Cat's fine with it. Edith, however, is not fine with it. Did you hear that little beast last night? Asked Edith, and when Stick Cat hopped up next to her on the windowsill. You mean Millie? Of course I mean Millie, Edith huffed. Her frustration showed. I mean, that tiny monster just could not shh up. I think babies often wake up in the night like that, Stick Cat commented. He had heard these complaints from Edith before, and he was more interested, frankly, in watching the sunrise. This was Stick Cat's favorite part of the day. He was just beginning to eyeball the different sections of the city as the sunlight crept across the rooftops. He watched as the windowsill went from dull black gray to a glistening gold and orange with sunlight reached them. He didn't watch for long though. Edith demanded his attention. Stick Cat, look at me, she said. Stick Cat looked at her. I don't think you're taking this problem seriously enough, Edith said. Her eyes were fierce looking. What problem? Stick Cat asked. Truthfully, he had already forgotten what Edith was talking about. The not sleeping problem! Oh, Stick Cat replied. I don't think we should worry about it. I think most babies have trouble sleeping. Millie will probably grow out of it soon. She'll be fine. Stick Cat! Edith explained. There was a hint of anger in her voice. I'm not talking about Millie's sleeping problem. I'm talking about my sleeping problem. Oh. If I don't get a good 18 or 20 hours of sleep every day, it can affect my mood. A lack of sleep can affect your mood? Most definitely. How so? Well, I can become selfish, obedience, priestly, overbearing. That's how, answered Edith, instead of my usual caring, wholesome, kind, and patient self. Stick Cat hesitated a single second before responding. I see. Edith seemed confident that Stick Cat understood now. She reposed herself a bit on the windowsill, swishing her tail from one side of her body to the other. She did it with just a touch of flair, allowing the very tip of her tail to snap a bit before fluttering down a stillness. She grinned to herself at her own magnificence before continuing the conversation. So, she asked. Stick Cat asked, so what? So how are we going to stop this rotten munchkin from crying in the middle of the night? Edith asked. She seemed expired that Stick Cat was not following her train of thought this morning. I'm not sure there's anything we can do, Stick Cat replied honestly. Well, I don't want to hear it, huffed Edith. There must be something we can do about that itty-bitty menace to society. I think babies just cry sometimes, Stick Cat said, and turned from Edith and started at the window. He was just starting to feel the change of the temperature outside, just feeling the day's first hint of warmth as the sun's light began to wash across the city. I have an idea, Edith said. Stick Cat turned back to her. What is it? Well, you know how I'm the most excellent singer, right? Now Stick Cat knew Edith was definitely not a most excellent singer. In fact, her piercing, screeching, and ear-splitting singing reminded him of someone rubbing sandpaper across some violin strings while a fire alarm was blaring. But Stick Cat didn't mention this. Instead, he said, yes? So maybe I should put my finely turned harmonies to work on Millie when she wakes up at night. How so? I could sing her a lullaby, Edith said with pride. She would fall right back to sleep with my beautiful melodies. I would single-handedly turn screaming demon Millie into sleeping angel Millie. I'll be a hero! This was, without a doubt, the absolute worst idea Stick Cat had ever heard. If Edith suddenly started singing in the middle of the night, the whole building, heck, the whole big city would wake up and be scared out of their wits. But he was, of course, couldn't say that to Edith. Stick Cat said as he worked to find something to say. And while he delayed, Edith tapped herself front paw to the windowsill 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. She wanted a response. But Stick Cat didn't need to provide one, thank goodness, because right then Tiffany called out, "Breakfast time!" Edith jumped down from the windowsill and raced toward the kitchen. The missing sausage links. Stick Cat hurried to the kitchen too. Nowadays, he looked forward to his meals almost as much as Edith. You see, when Tiffany and Edith moved in, Stick Cat's meals got way better. Goose had always provided Stick Cat with pouch food. He would switch flavors a couple of the weeks, but Stick Cat's food always came from a plastic pouch. Boring cat food. Not anymore. Tiffany had been making hearty government meals for Edith for years. So that's probably why she's so fat. And now that they all live together, that meant Stick Cats got government meals too. Today's breakfast was Huvius, Ranchos, and sausage links. Edith was already eating when Stick Cat arrived. His bowl was right next to hers. How are the eggs? Asked the cat. Good. As she mumbled, as she chewed. After swallowing, she added, Tiffany put more salsa on mine. Extra spicy. I like my eggs extra spicy. I know you do, Stick Cat responded and smiled. Edith was always happy around mealtime. Because I'm extra spicy. I know you are, Stick Cat, still smiling, said. He looked down into his bowl. And how is the sausage links? They were very good. They? Asked Stick Cat. Did you eat more than one sausage links? Yes, we both got 3. Stick Cat Edith answered. And dropped her head toward her remaining eggs. Stick Cat looked into his bowl again. There were a small mound of eggs and a little sauce on top of there. There was 1 sausage link. 1. Exactly. 1. It only took a few seconds for Stick Cat to find out the theory of what happened to his other 2 sausages. Edith, she answered in a mumble through a mouthful of spicy, extra spicy, scrambled eggs and salsa. Did you know what might happen to my other 2 sausage links? What accorded next, quite revealing, and provided with an obvious answer. The case of the missing sausage links not yet rated. Now showing. Edith, before Stick Cat questions, was munching and chewing and swallowing fiercely, suddenly stopped. The fur on her back and her neck shut up. She had gone from being busy, hungry cat to 1 second totally still and busted cat 1 second later. Stick Cat saw this and grinned to himself. He didn't really care about the 2 sausage links, but he did like to have fun with Edith about such things. Edith? Yes? She thought it moved. Stick Cat repeated his question. Do you know what happened to my other 2 sausage links? Edith finally relaxed. The fur on the back of her neck collapsed back into its normal position. She inhaled and exhaled more comfortably. Her shoulders became less stiff. To Stick Cat, it appeared that she had come up with an answer. Are you sure you haven't eaten them already? She asked. I just got here. Edith said. It's a curious thing, isn't it? Stick Cat did not respond. He looked forward at Edith's next theory. In a few seconds, he heard, "Maybe they jumped over to my bowl." She posed. Sausages can jump? "I don't see why not," Edith said. There was a glimmer of hope in her voice, as if she believed that Stick Cat might actually be buying into her notion. "They are warm and chewy, kind of springy. Maybe they hopped over here." "Maybe." "It's possible, I guess," Stick Cat said. "If so, could you pass them back, please?" "They aren't over here," Edith said. They might just have been hopping and jumping like those crazy little burgers. They might have jumped from your bowl and then just continued hopping. I bet they jumped right out of the kitchen window. Crazy, right? They might be long gone." "Hi, Shayla." "Edith, yes?" "The window's closed." "Oh," she said, and paused. "Maybe they didn't jump at all. If I haven't eaten them already, and they didn't jump out of the kitchen window," the cat said. He was going prolonged to think too much. He wanted to get to his breakfast, but he did want to see if Edith had another explanation. "What do you think what happened to my sausages?" "Maybe Tiffany miscounted," Edith suggested. "Maybe she thought she counted to 3 sausages when she really just gave you 1. "You think she miscounted to 3? "It's possible," Edith said. Then she whispered, "She's not all that bright. I think she can count to 3. "Well then," Edith said. She had tried of the conversation. "I give up. I guess your missing sausages will remain a mystery forever." The cat watched as Edith, apparently convinced that the conversation was now complete, leaned over to lap some water. He smiled at her. "Edith?" "Yes," she answered between drinks. "I think your hopping sausages idea might be right after all." "You do?" "Yes, I do," the cat answered. "I think the sausages hop into my bowl just like you said. I'm glad to see the local theory and smartness of my sausage hopping theory." I said. She seemed delighted as the cat came around to actually believing one of her explanations. "See this," the cat decided to offer Edith a ready-made excuse. And his decide it was time for him to eat breakfast. "I think those darn gosh sausages hopped into your mouth," he said. "It's not your fault you ate them." "I think I would have noticed if your sausages sprang into my mouth, Stick Cat," Edith said slowly. She had the strangest look about then. Her head tilted just a tad to the left. Her pupils dilated, getting bigger and bigger. Her whiskers twitched. She didn't look quite devilish, but she looked scared. She was not going to take the blame. Edith, though, had another idea. Stick Cat couldn't tell what she was up to. He lowered his head and to take his first breakfast bite. Wait a minute, Edith said. She had finished her meal and had one more time to talk now. I know what happened. I know who took your sausages. Stick Cat swallowed his first bite and lifted his head, his bowl, and he asked, "Who?" "Millie!" Edith said. "That sneaky, chubby little monster." Little villain must have crawled out of here earlier. I bet she did. Edith, Stick Cat said, "Millie doesn't know how to crawl yet. She can roll over, lie on her back, and sit up. That's it. She needs to be carried everywhere." "Maybe she started crawling when nobody was looking, Stick Cat," Edith shot back. "Did you ever think of that?" "No," he answered. "I haven't thought of that. She started crawling, and you and me, Goose and Tiffany, never noticed. Even though, if she did, she'd be crawling all over the place. And I think it'll be a pretty big deal, like a really big deal, when a baby starts to crawl. Maybe she doesn't want anyone to know that she can, so she can sneak around and cause trouble, like stealing sausages," Edith explained. You can tell she likes this idea of blaming Millie for something. That would be just like her." Stick Cat didn't believe any of it. Of course, but that didn't stop Edith from continuing. That's it. All right, mystery solved." Summed up, and that marvelous matcherine Millie rolled over her back, crawled right over here, and took your sausages. Then she crawled right back into wherever she was, rolled onto her back again, and ate them. Edith looked at Stick Cat, smiled, and nodded. She was happy with her explanation. It got herself off the hook when seamlessly sniffing the blame to Millie, who had interrupted so much of her beauty sleep last night. "I doubt that, Millie," he started to say, but he never finished. "I'm sure of it," Edith interrupted. Just imagine what that rotten, twisted munchkin had done in the past several hours. First, she robs me out of precious slumber time. Then she robs your tasty, smoking, chewy sausages. A sniffing sneak. Well, I'm not quite sure that Stick Cat began to say in Millie's defense, but he was interrupted again. This time, he was interrupted by the doorbell. Ding dong! Chapter 3, Grandma Cobb. It was Grandma Cobb, Tiffany's mom. When the bell rang, Tiffany hurried to the door to let her in. "Mom!" she explained, and gave her a big hug. Ever since Edith was a kitten, she had known Grandma Cobb. Grandma Cobb looked like she always did. She wore a lovely, flowering, long flower print dress. She wore a big floppy hat, carried an long purple and yellow beaded necklace. She wore that necklace every day. It was really, really long. And Grandma Cobb looped it around her neck several times. When it was unclasped, stretched all the way to the side of the living room to the other. Edith was her first memory when Grandma Cobb used that purple and yellow necklace to play with her. Grandma dangled it from Edith, and Edith batted it with her little kitten paws. Grandma switched the necklace across the floor and bounced after it with all her kitten energy. Grandma looped it closely around Edith's neck to play dress up, and Edith pranced out of the mirror with her kitten princess as she could muster. Edith adored Grandma Cobb. She remembered when Grandma would pick her up and bring her close. She would stare into her eyes and said, "You can be my grandkitty." As soon as she saw Grandma Cobb enter the apartment, Edith hustled toward the door in several joyous leaps and bounces. She rubbed her side against Grandma's right leg. There's my grandkitty," she said, leaning down and stroking Edith gently across the top of her head. Edith purred deeply. Stick Cat moved across the living room too, but not as fast as Edith. When he arrived, he asked, "Why are you so happy to see Grandma Cobb?" "Happy? I'm elated, overjoyed," Edith explained. She purred and rubbed against Grandma constantly as she spoke. "She's the best. She's the absolute best." "I've heard you mention her before," Stick Cat said. He had only seen Grandma Cobb once or twice before. "I can tell how much you like her." "Why is that?" "Grandma recognized my unique and charming personal traits," Edith answered, still purring away. "She always tells me how pretty I am. She admires my magnificent tail. She brings me treats and presents. She's amazing." "Well, I'm glad," Stick Cat started to say. "Look!" Edith interrupted and pointing up to Grandma, who was now digging around in that huge shoulder bag to fetch something. "She's getting me a present or a treat. Right now, I'm sure of it." Stick Cat watched as Grandma stretched inside the bag with her left hand. "There it is." She pulled out a small plastic object with a circle at its end. It rattled. Upon seeing it, Edith popped herself up on Grandma's leg and started longingly at the plastic object. "No, not for you," Grandma said, looking down at Edith briefly. Then she looked up at the living room. "Where's my granddaughter? Where's my Millie?" That's when Goose came out from the kitchen. He was holding Millie in his arms. "There she is," Grandma explained and hurried over. Edith fell on her leg. "There's the most beautiful girl in the world. Look how big. 4 months already." Stick Cat saw the look on disappointment on Edith's face. It lasted only a split second. "I brought this for you," Grandma said, and shook the rattle before handing it to Millie. Millie took it eagerly and immediately began to chew it. Again, Edith looked disappointed, but again, it only lasted a single moment. There's probably something for you in the bag, too, Stick Cat reassured Edith. It is a big bag. I'm sure you're right, Edith said confidently. It's Grandma Cobb, after all, and I'm her grandkitty. It was a priestly moments when Grandma said something that made Edith more confident. Who wants to see my necklace? She said loudly and playful. I told you, Edith shrieked and provided quickly. She leaped away from Stick Cat and at the apartment's door and toward Grandma in the center of the living room. In midair, Edith explained, I love that necklace! After 2 more leaps, Edith landed at Grandma's feet. She looked up and saw her swinging that purple and yellow necklace in the air. The colorful beads twirled and sparkled as though they caught the sunlight streaming through the window. Edith got up and propped herself against Grandma again. But Grandma didn't even notice. She was too busy watching Millie grasp that necklace with her fingers. Edith saw this, dropped him right back on all fours in the living room carpet. By this time, Stick Cat has worked his way into the middle of the living room, too. He saw the sadness on Edith's face. Don't worry about it, Stick Cat said, trying to comfort Edith. It's just because Millie is new. The look on disappointment lasted straightly longer than the previous one. But again, her love and faith in Grandma Cobb were still far too strong to sturdy and leave any trace of lingering doubt. And something else occurred right then that increased her confidence, Tiffany said. We're leaving now, Mom. Edith snapped her head quickly in Stick Cat's direction. Did you hear that? She asked, with pure happiness in her voice. I did, he answered. He wasn't quite sure. He wasn't quite sure why Edith was so gleeful. Everybody's leaving! Explained Edith. I get to have Grandma all to myself. Then Tiffany said something else that changed Edith's mood quickly. Are you sure you'll be able to stay with Millie? Of course, Grandma said. She held Millie up in the air and smiled at her. This isn't my first time with a baby, you know. I did raise your 2 brothers. Tiff, I'll take good care of her while you're gone. Don't worry about a thing. Okay, Tiffany said. We'll be absolutely fine, right? Grandma asked Millie. Millie giggled. And then Millie looked at Edith. Edith had, of course, heard this entire conversation and understood exactly what it meant. Wait a minute, she said, turning back to Stick Cat. Her gleeful and confident attitude had suddenly turned to doubt and anxiety. They're not taking Millie? Stick Cat answered honestly. I don't think so. Millie is staying here? I believe so. With me and Grandma. Yeah, I think that's right. But I can't complete that with a chubby little curb. Stick Cat looked at a single moment then to consider the response. He had never seen Edith like this before. Edith was many things. She was prissy, funny, spoiled, and brave. Her bravery wasn't always well placed. Her tended to do dangerous things often without thinking about them. She thought patching or hitching a ride with a couple of pigeons were excellent ways to cross the alley from up the 23rd floor. For instance, Edith, in all respects, an absolutely confident cat. She was totally confident in her experience, her ideas, and her actions. She was even indefinitely proud of her own singing abilities, even though Sick Cat and everyone else in a 5 milli apparatus knew how terrible her ear-ringing shrieking was. No, Sick Cat knew this about Edith for sure. He was not a lack of confidence ever. But now facing Millie in a competition for Grandma's attention, Edith suddenly seemed to doubt her own chances. Edith, Sick Cat said, he was ready to give her self-esteem a boost. As soon as Millie takes a nap, I'm sure Grandma will remember what a charming, gorgeous, playful companion you are. Edith pulled her mouth to one side in a few seconds then, thinking about what's Sick Cat's words. Well, she said, after a pause to think about them, I don't think Millie and I need to fall asleep for me to defeat in her battle for Grandma's affections. Given a level playing field, I think I just handle just about anything. I believe that's true, Edith responded. He was pleased to see Edith's confidence at least partially resorts. And you certainly did some on my traits nicely, Edith added. Charming, gorgeous, and playful are some of my most endearing attitudes. Indeed, especially gorgeous, especially. How would you like to add it? Would you like to add anything else? Edith asked. Anything else what? Any additional character traits about me? Edith asked. You know, bleach about your description about me, and add a few details. The cat squeezed his lips together and smiled. Then he said, "You're elegant, you're fluffy, and you're magnificent." All true, Edith said and nodded. She also waited. She wanted to hear some more. To her Sick Cat, Edith provided prompt. What about my singing voice? Sick Cat said. It seemed like he was trying to find the right words to use. He found them. You're singing it like nobody else have ever heard before. Edith liked the sound of that. Would you like to sing? Would you like to sing something for me right now? She asked and cleared her throat quickly. Without waiting for Sick Cat's sweet reply, Edith inhaled and began to let out a high-pitched, obvious scratching screech. Ah! No! Sick Cat argued as fast as he could. Edith stopped. Why not? Sick Cat said. If you begin to share your amazing musical talents, Goose and Tiffany will probably want you to stay and rejoice in your concert. Then you won't get to have any alone time with Grandma. Good point, Edith said, almost fully satisfied. Almost fully satisfied. Anything else you know about me? Said Cat, eagerly relieved that Edith was not going to sing. Was happy to provide with another compliment. You're modest, Edith, said Cat said. You're quite modest. Modest? Edith asked. What does that mean? It means you're not full of yourself, said Cat began to explain. You don't brag if you have a confidence in yourself. But you don't show everybody that you're confident in yourself. That's true, Edith said, and nodded her understanding. I'm totally modest. I'm the most modest cat, the most modest anything in the entire planet. Nobody is more modest than me. I'm the best at modest, the absolute best. Why, you can't even mention a word modest without invoking my beautiful modesty. Nobody can out-modest the lovely and virtuous Edith. Nobody anywhere. Nobody. Anytime. Edith. Modest. That's me, all right. I'm the best at modest. Sick Cat smiled and simply said, That's you, Edith. That's definitely you. While this conversation happened, Tiffany and Goose put on their jackets and paced to the apartment's door. You go on and have a nice time, Grandma called as they opened the door. Don't worry about a thing. Okay, Mom, Tiffany said. You can give Millie a little applesauce straight away. She might be hungry. I'll do that right now, Grandma answered, turned to the left heel, and carried Millie into the kitchen. Just as Goose and Tiffany exited the apartment, Goose asked, Should we warn her about the bathroom door? Tiffany answered, No, we'll only be gone for a few hours. Besides, that knob's just loose, not broken. Goose said, Okay. The apartment's door squeezed shut. Stick Cat did not know at this time what he would wish that later that Goose and Tiffany had warned Grandma Cobb about the damaged bathroom doorknob. It would have made things a lot less complicated and a lot less scary. Okay. Thanks for watching. And any questions? Okay, today I did not forget about it. Let me check. Is Sydney modest? Sydney's my cat, and I can't hear her voice. And she always licks herself. So, I'll just say a yes. I think. I don't know. Let me see. Do you think Sydney is elegant, fluffy, and magnificent too? Elegant, no. Fluffy, yes, definitely yes. Or maybe elegant, I don't know. And magnificent, okay. Oh, yes. Well, it looks like there's no questions. Any more questions? So I am just gonna say, what's a word? That's for B. It has a Y. That says bye. Oh, go. Bye. More questions. How do you like the book? It's good. Fine. I just started. And I already read this book like a million times. What made you read this book? It's about cats. And cats are well, they're not my favorite animal, but I have a cat. Okay, now if you have any more questions, I'll answer them later. And bye-bye.